It's your Thursday Daily Delivery. I'm Michael Rand. Hope everyone's having a good day out there today. Lots to get to on today's show. Randy Johnson, Gopher football beat writer for the Star Tribune, joins me here in just a little bit to talk about a team that has really been struggling. 4-0 start, 3 straight losses after that, and just trying to figure out how to get back on track, trying to figure out how to reframe their season. You'll hear from Thomas Rush a little bit later in the show, too. Thomas Rush, defensive end for the Gopher football team, spoke about kind of how they can keep going this season, kind of what the season can mean to them now, kind of how, with the Big Ten West pretty much out of reach, what they're playing for now. And I also asked him about the notion of momentum and thought his answer to that was interesting. So that in tandem with Randy Johnson should give us a good insight into the Gopher football team and kind of where they are at after, two sides to this season really so far. Also get into some Aaron Rodgers stuff. Can't keep his mouth shut. Can't stop talking about the troubles of the Packers. And it's great for us. It makes for good stuff to talk about, makes for fun stuff to write about, but not sure it is doing the best service to him or his teammates. So I'll get to that at the end of the show as well. First, though, what did I miss? So had some interesting thoughts about Timberwolves win over San Antonio on Wednesday. Certainly can find some positives from 134 to 122. Biggest thing is they not only did they shoot the lights out in this game, but the ball did not get sticky, as Chris Finch likes to say. I think there was a key play. It was late in the first half where it looked like Anthony Edwards was kind of holding it and dribbling it, and instead of shooting, it looked like Rudy Gobert encouraged him to get rid of it, went and set a screen, but then kind of got the ball back from him. They worked it around, got a better shot. I think it eventually got to Karl Anthony Towns for a pretty close range shot that he made, and that was a difference I felt like from past games this year, where when they started to get into a little bit of a rut, the offense started to try to do a little bit too much hero ball. This game did not have a lot of hero ball. 37 assists on 52 made field goals. They shot 65% from the field, including 58.8%, 20 for 34 from three-point range. So obviously they were moving the ball well. Obviously they were distributing the ball well. Obviously, most of the starters should have felt good about their contributions. All of them had double digits in scoring. Edwards had 34. He was a plus 16 on the night, and he had 9 assists, 2 steals. Good to see him back kind of into that mode. Karl Anthony Towns, 21 points, 7 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, a block. That's the kind of game you're going to want from Cat pretty much all year. I don't think you have to put up 30 a game, but that's the kind of game you want from him. Rudy Gobert, 10 points, 9 rebounds. Jaden McDaniels, 20 points on 8 of 9 shooting, 3 block shots. I mean, this looked like a team that was pretty tired of the way it had been playing earlier in the season, and they took it out on a Spurs team that was off to a good start. Spurs started 3-1 this year, including that win over the Wolves, where they really blew them out until the very end on Monday. Another encouraging stat, the Spurs had only 6 fast break points in this game. So Wolves definitely cleared that up, definitely made a conscious effort. I think they went hand in hand with an interesting stat. They had 0 offensive rebounds. They just put the total emphasis on getting back, not crashing the boards, not chasing that, just working on getting back on defense. I'm sure at some point there's going to have to be a happy medium between not giving up fast break points and not getting any second chance points from offensive rebounds. You're not going to shoot 65% every night. You're not going to make all of those threes every night. And I guess that brings me to kind of the downside. I don't feel like everything is fixed yet, because the Spurs still got 122 points. They still got 14 offensive rebounds to the Wolves 0. That's not going to play well most nights, even if you are making a conscious effort to get back on defense. So some good steps forward. Wolves still had to log some pretty heavy minutes to put this one away. Towns played 38, Edwards played 38, Jaden McDaniels 35, Rudy Gobert 35. So, would like to see them be able to put things on cruise control a little bit more. That bench was pretty short in this game. 9 players played, but Naz Reid only played 5 minutes. So really, it was like an 8-man rotation for most of the night. I think Chris Finch really wanted to win this game, and I don't blame him. I don't think anybody played, overly excessive minutes, but still work in progress. I think they're understanding that they need to win along the way. They can't just give games away while they figure themselves out. So good to see that from that perspective. But I don't get the perspective, I guess, that all is fixed from this one game, because you're not going to shoot the lights out like that every game. You're not going to shoot 65% and score 134 points most games. The stuff that led to that, the good ball movement, the good shot selection, that is sustainable, but the amount of makes is not sustainable. So they're going to need to do more in future games if they are going to keep fulfilling their potential.
Take a playcation to Mystic Lake. With 24/7 gaming, the good times never have to end. And you can satisfy your cravings at our restaurants and bars. Or relax in one of our luxurious hotel rooms. Those that play together, stay together. And don't forget to join Club M so you can spark new memories and bask in the rewards along the way. Follow the lights to Mystic Lake, where every day is play day.
Good to have Randy Johnson back on Daily Delivery, usually on every week during the Gophers football season. It's been a tale of 2 parts of the year, Randy. I mean, this team started 4-0. There was national talk. There was certainly Big Ten West talk, and now 3 losses in a row. The most recent at Penn State, a game that was, close on the scoreboard, at least at halftime, 17-10, and then got out of hand. 45-17 was the final in that one. You were out there. What? How do you describe this loss versus, compared to Purdue, compared to Illinois, and how do you and as you think about it, like how do you then pull out of whatever they're in right now and get back on the right side of the wins and losses?
Now, I would say this loss was against a very much superior team. Penn State had it going pretty well once they got it going. Gophers started decently on defense. 2 3-and-outs in a row, and then an interception. And the Penn State fans booing their quarterback because Sean Clifford has been embattled now. They have the number 1 recruit in the nation, Drew Aller, behind him, and everybody likes the backup quarterback when the starters. But then once Penn State got the offense rolling, found the tight ends, and found the weaknesses in the Gophers defense, they just kept it rolling. Gophers made it interesting in the first half when Ethan Kaliak-Manis drove them down for a touchdown with 32 seconds left, got it to 17-10. Gophers get the ball to start the third quarter. Don't do much with it right away. It gets to 24-10. But then they're driving. They got at the Penn State 34, and they can they get a touchdown here? They're back in it again. Mike Brown-Stevens, no call, interception on it. Penn State drives it down and gets the pass interference call on Terrell Smith to extend a drive, and pretty much that was it after that. Get the touchdown there.
You mentioned the Penn State. Everybody wants the backup quarterback. We got to see, like you said, Ethan Kaliak-Manis play for the Gophers with Tanner Morgan out. How did you think he fared in the tough environment? Obviously, 107,000 fans, the whiteout, everything like that. How did he acquit himself in that start?
He was able to move the ball. He was able to get out of some pressure. There are times he might have tucked and run a little bit too quickly, but he gives them a dimension at with the running game that they don't have with Jenner. And he has a nice arm. He had a really nice throw on that touchdown drive at the end of the first half to Lemeke Brockington, who hauled in with a nice catch in the sideline. He had a nice 49-yarder to Mike Brown-Stevens. There's something to work with there. There's a lot to work with there, I think.
Now, there will be a segment of Gopher fandom that says, hey, they're 4-3 now. The Big Ten West is almost certainly out of reach. Any other kind of, bigger aspirations beyond that are out of reach. Should he keep playing, even if Tanner Morgan comes back and is healthy? How do you see that debate being framed? And I imagine that's not how PJ Fleck sees it, but how do you see that debate?
Yeah, it's. I think PJ is going to have to look at that too. Obviously, I think this week I would guess we'll see Athan again. I think from what I understand, Tanner's still in the concussion protocol. At least as of yesterday, what PJ told us. He's not going to tip his hand on anything, but I think he had to. He did like what he saw out of Athan. I think there's a pretty good chance he starts this week again. I'm not ruling out Tanner completely, but he moved the ball, and they have not been moving the ball very well lately. It's not all in the quarterback, but that is part of it.
Yeah, which is interesting because it's been the Tanner Morgan show for a very long time here, and people have kind of openly wondered, like, hey, who else is in the pipeline? Now that you get to see it, there is some potential there, and it's interesting to think about this offense with someone who can make plays with their legs a little bit more than Tanner Morgan. That's he's not completely immobile, but he's not a running quarterback. He doesn't really offer much of that threat, in the zone read and stuff like that. So, that dimension is kind of intriguing. That said, you also have a guy who came back for his 6th year. So that's an interesting question to ask if and when Tanner Morgan is cleared to play.
And obviously PJ is very loyal to his seniors. That's going to be, it's not an easy decision for him. I'm really, really curious to see what he's going to do going forward. I think it's always, the new shiny toy you have. Yes. You want to see how it works and everything. And I think there's a little bit of that too, a lot from fan base and the media.
Yeah, exactly. When you reference that we might see the youngster again against Rodgers, Rodgers in the past has been, a pretty favorable matchup, and not to say that they're as good as Penn State or anything like that, but this is not the walkover Rodgers type of team that we've seen. Even though this is back at Huntington Bank Stadium, they've got some things going for them this year.
Yeah, they have a nice defense. They've come a long way in that aspect. They're ranked 6th nationally against the run, 87 yards a game given up. They're strong on third down defense. So this is not a gimme whatsoever. And especially if you look back, so basically 10 points, 14 points, 17 points the last 3 games by the Gophers offense. So it's they need to put more up than that to guarantee a win.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll see what they're able to get done the rest of the way. And it's interesting. They're kind of at this point in the year where if it was me, it would be hard for me to then say, okay, well, we have all of this still left to play for, but then you go beyond Rutgers. There's a chance to beat Iowa. There's a chance to beat Wisconsin. Neither of those gimmies. Obviously, you've still got Nebraska on the schedule, games that will carry a certain amount of importance. Players want to win no matter what. As you think about it, like, is there any way to, from where they were to where they are now, is there any way to reframe this year? Like, what would have to happen for you to reconsider this as a successful season after kind of what expectations were when they were 4-0?
Yeah, I think you're gonna have to really run that table, or go 4-1, and that 4-1 better include Bucky and Hawkeye there as wins. I mean, basically, yeah, it's right now you're at best a 9-3 season, which is, in a way, this is kind of interesting. They're raising the expectations here. 2 years back, 9-3 might have seemed pretty good, but last year they lost 4 games, and basically people were talking about the 2 that they should have won. And yeah, the expectations have gone up in the program. That's what happens when you go 11-2 like they did in 2019. Finished in the top 10 in the country. It's okay. We like that. Please do it again.
Yeah. Now, from what you understand, I mean, we watched this a little bit or at least I watched this more from an invested observer, but still not a program insider. Do you get the feeling that at least this 3-week stretch, did this surprise them internally in terms of, did they think they were as good as we all thought they were, or at least close to that, where they were really thinking that, hey, we are legitimate Big Ten West contenders? Or did people within the program, whoever that might be, think, we still have some questions to answer before we feel that good about ourselves?
Yeah, they always try to stay even keel and take it, that whole 1-game championship season situation. But yeah, I think the one that really kind of shook them a little bit, or maybe jolted their confidence was the Purdue game where they made so many mistakes. That's basically, that was very uncharacteristic of them. And basically that cost them that game. Was there a little bit of hangover after that? I don't know. Illinois was more of a situation where Illinois, it's a tough matchup, and it has been the last 2 years. Illinois took the Gophers game and threw it back in their face. The ball control, the big time of possession, the stingy defense. Gophers, that was 80. Remember the number of play, 86 plays they had to go against on defense. So,
yeah. A couple final thoughts for you, Randy. When you were out in Pennsylvania, you saw some hockey as well, did you not? You saw a little Penn State versus St. Thomas. How are we looking on the St. Thomas hockey front?
Well, it was a nice little surprise. I've been up with some friends out there. I worked out there from 91 to 95 for the local paper, so I had some ties. And decided to go to the hockey games, check out the Pagula Ice Arena. Very nice, nice lively crowd, very organized crowd, especially the student section. They bang on the glass all the time. Might grate traditionalists like me a little bit, but they do create an atmosphere there. St. Thomas played a pretty good game. They had lost 6-2 on Thursday night. They had Penn State in a 2-2 tie in the third period. Goes to overtime. Tommy's hit a crossbar. And shortly after, Penn State goes down and gets the winner with 20 seconds left in OT. So it was a fun atmosphere there. I was impressed with that building especially. And
more than anything, you're happy to be back in Minneapolis in one piece. I understand there was a little bit of a harrowing travel adventure for you on the way back.
That was something. It was I thought on the flight back, I flew from Harrisburg to Charlotte, and the flight back from Charlotte. I thought my main problems were going to be there was a guy ahead of me, a little bit inebriated and having, he's having too much fun, which a little noisy and stuff. But anyway,
who among us hasn't, Randy? Who among us?
Yes, exactly. It's a pretty windy flight, a lot of turbulence for pretty much the last half of it, and we're flying into Minneapolis, St. Paul airports, and pilots taking it down to land. Wheels go down, and then he immediately kicks the afterburners back in and takes it back up. Because when he hit down, it was a little squirrely yet there, so I think he felt the crosswinds. And after about 3 or 4 minutes, the pilot got on the intercom and basically let us all know that the wind gusts were a little bit over the threshold that we wanted to land it in, so we aborted that one, and so flew around for another probably about 10 minutes to come back and try it again. And it was a hard landing, but he got us down, and I'm very, very thankful for that. It was quite the way to cap a trip.
I will refrain from making any connections to the Gopher football season and how your flight went, but I'm glad you are back safely as well, for multiple reasons. And please follow Randy's coverage this weekend of Gophers versus Rodgers. Randy, we'll talk about that game, I'm sure, next week. Until then, enjoy yourself, and we'll talk soon.
Sounds good, Mike. Thanks a lot.
Good to catch up with Randy Johnson. As always, glad, of course, that he made it home safe from Penn State. It's not an easy place to get to sometimes. I think I've only flown in there once, but it was in the wintertime, and it was not my favorite flight experience, even if the atmosphere there was pretty good. I think Randy's right. In order to frame this as a successful season, Gophers pretty much need to run the table or come close to doing that. They've got 5 games left. They're 4-3 right now. Home against Rutgers on Saturday. I know we said Rutgers is better than maybe they have been in some of these past seasons, but Gophers still a 14-point favorite in this game. That means, people have looked at this and said they are 2 touchdowns better than Rutgers even after losing all these 3 games in a row. So opportunity to get to 5-3. Then after that, they go to Nebraska. Nebraska not having a good season. They're 3-4 right now, 2-2 in the Big Ten. After that, Northwestern comes here. Northwestern 1-6 overall. So you'd like to think that has possibilities as a win. Then Iowa comes here after that. Iowa having a terrible season as well. Iowa's 3-4 in the 3-4 overall, 1-3 in the Big Ten. Can't score. They too have lost 3 games in a row. And then the big one, November 26th at Wisconsin. This is not your typical Wisconsin team. They are 4-4 right now, 2-3 in the Big Ten. So revisiting that gives you the idea that if the Gophers can figure this out, they do still have a chance to, win some trophy games, feel a little bit better about themselves. But also looking at that makes you remember just what opportunity they had this year. Even if they had won just one of these last 3 games and were sitting there at 2-2 in the Big Ten West, you could see a realistic path forward. As it is right now, even if they run the table, they don't have the tiebreaker against Illinois or Purdue. Those are the 2 teams at the top of the Big Ten West standings. You just can't imagine how they come away with anything other than a consolation prize. But you don't stop playing the games, and that was kind of the message that we heard on Tuesday from Thomas Rush over at Gophers Football Media Access. I asked Thomas Rush, do you believe in the idea of momentum in sports, whether it's in the context of a game or a season? And, it was an interesting answer, so I want to play that for you right now.
Yeah, so I'll tell you that, culturally and as a team, we don't believe in momentum. Obviously besides the physics part of it, but no, we don't believe in momentum in that aspect. And truly, from a player standpoint, and my view before I was even in the culture with Coach Fleck, I thought that something like that was kind of why would people talk about momentum in terms of you have momentum or whatever you want to call it. And Coach Fleck kind of gave me that definition and understanding of why that really isn't a factor and why it doesn't really exist. And just because guys make plays. Your best players play their best. They make plays. Guys are detailed. Guys execute their job, their responsibility. And you look at games where people say somebody has momentum, somebody doesn't have momentum. That's usually comes down to guys executing responsibilities. And we often talk about winning games versus losing games, and most often teams don't really win a game. Teams lose a game less. And I think if you want to look at something like momentum that people talk about, it's guys going through a game or going through their job and not executing that to a high level, right? And losing the game more than the other guy.
Now, I appreciate that he clarified that he's not anti-science, that he does believe in the idea of momentum in physics. That was kind of humorous. But the bigger point being, I disagree to an extent. I've never played, obviously, high-level athletics like Thomas Rush has, but I've played enough sports to know that when you're in a game and things are starting to go against you, or I've even watched enough sports to see when things are going against you, it is hard to pull out of that. It's hard to go from losing to winning, or to stop something that's going poorly. So I think momentum does become a real thing. Maybe it's less of a real thing if you don't let it become a thing. And I think there was the truth to what he was saying is that good players just make plays. You stop momentum by good players making good players coming together as a team and playing well. So it's not like you can't change momentum or you can't change the course of how a game is going. And football sometimes is so back and forth. Maybe it's hard to see what exactly that momentum is, but that's a real edge to me sometimes, and I don't think the Gophers have any of it right now. So how do they get that back? Thomas Rush also was asked later, not by me, by a different reporter, kind of what's left to play for, and he talked about this being kind of their own little 5-game mini championship season. So I wanted to play that too, since Randy and I kind of talked about what we thought would define success.
You kind of think about all that stuff, and it's hard to concentrate and just be a football player and have fun. And I think that's one of the ways, kind of going back to a couple of questions, just getting back to who we are and having fun, and just knowing that we're coming out to play a game, and you can't be any more grateful about that. And all the talk about what ifs and all that stuff, it doesn't really come across to me as something that is important in terms of this is the week that is important to me with this game. I got to do what I got to do to get ready. The rest of the guys in the room got to do what they got to do. And it's just the next game.
Now, that's definitely the right attitude. Like I said, I feel like I'm a little hung up right now on the idea of an opportunity missed, but as a player, you can't think that way, right? There's still an opportunity to win some games, play football, enjoy the process of that, and that's really the best way to approach a game at any point. Even if they had won all of these last 3 games instead of lost them, like, you do still have to zero in on the task at hand. I don't know who or how to what extent we would classify this as a success if they do go 4-1 in these next 5 games, finish 8-4, win some trophy games along the way. I don't. There still will still be kind of a wondering of what happened, what happened with that 3-game stretch. Or conversely, if they don't play well down these last, down the stretch here, they go 3-2, 2-3, worse than that, then we'll know that this team was just, overcooked at the start of the year, just didn't really have what we thought they had, and are now getting their due for how they really were. I don't know. I guess we'll see. They got 5 games left, a 5-game opportunity to see what they can make out of this season, and it starts Saturday against Rodgers. Let's finish with the cooler. Aaron Rodgers can't keep his mouth shut. Part 512. Went on the Pat McAfee show on Tuesday, talking about there are players on the team who, quote, are making too many mistakes, shouldn't be playing. Got to start cutting some reps, and maybe guys who aren't playing, give them a chance. Talking Wednesday, he said there's nobody that had a problem with what he said. I said, I'm one of those guys if one of those guys has a problem with it, I'm right here and I'd love to have a conversation. I enjoy those conversations. I enjoy any type of conflict like that because I know the resolution on the other side is going to make us a better unit, a better friendship, a better cohesion on the field. But nobody's come to me and said, I've got a problem with that, with what you said. I think everybody knows, Matt included, that everyone's got to take a little uptick to get a little bit better. He also said that this is nothing that he hasn't told people, behind closed doors. I think, and that was the point that I thought was interesting, because I feel like that's where maybe you don't need to air this in public. I mean, like I said at the beginning of the show, it's great for us, but if he's already related this to his teammates, what's the upside of then talking about this in public as well? I don't know. I don't know what the upside of that is. Share your feelings with your teammates. Yeah, demand more excellence, demand that you get better. Maybe it's just honesty. I like honesty. That's fine. I don't know if the airing of grievances in public is having the intended effect, but we'll see. We'll see what happens when they play Buffalo on Sunday night. Big underdogs in that game. I think they're like double-digit underdogs for the first time in Rodgers' career, if I'm reading that right. And that's an interesting position for them to be in after being on this 3-game losing streak. So maybe he's motivating them. I don't know. It seems like a strange way to go about it, and maybe ultimately none of that really matters because they just don't have anybody to catch the ball. That'll do it for today. Ben Gessling will join me on Friday's show to talk Vikings. Some interesting stuff. We were out at Vikings headquarters on Wednesday for that media access. I got a few things I want to ask Ben about that. Until then, enjoy the rest of your day. Back at it again tomorrow.